Welcome to another In the Shop. I'm Clay Croft, and I'm with Dave Harriton today from AEV, and he's brought in two Ram Prospector XL trucks. First off, why the Ram?
We just had a lot of customers asking us for more capability, more, longer range. They were always asking us for diesel engines. We started thinking about the Ram. Really nobody makes expedition parts for a full-size vehicle like that. Very, very few.
Very few, sure.
And it's nice because it comes with the Hemi or the diesel.
Yeah.
Up to 900 pound-feet of torque, up to 74 gallons of fuel, just standard. The core of this package was designing around where essentially we lower the axle tube and then we move the axle forward, which allowed us to run really big tires with a very minimal amount of lift.
Sure.
And then we remade all the steering and suspension brackets so essentially to fool the truck into thinking it's not lifted at all.
Talking about the suspension and dropping it, you actually did bring in this part, so let's see it. What's going on here?
This is kind of the key component of the suspension, and essentially this raises the coil bucket on the axle. So this attaches to the axle and changes the bracketry on the axle to include this. And this raises the bump stop, this has clearance for a shock.
Okay.
But if you also notice, if you look at that pattern there, it skews everything. So we're skewing the axle. So the spring's staying in the stock spot, but we're able to push the axle forward. And that's kind of the key. In order to run like a 37 on a regular Ram, you have to run, I think, 6 or 8 inches of lift.
Okay.
This allows us to do it with less than 3.
3.
And this height all revolved around the steering and doing a similar steering flip like we do on the Wrangler.
Okay.
So everything kind of got based off the steering flip. That's the height.
Okay.
And then this was how far we had to move it forward. And then we built everything else around it to mimic the stock geometry. So when you drive these trucks, they just drive like a stock vehicle. You honestly can't tell it's lifted.
Because the geometry remained the same.
Geometry is the exact same.
With the XL, you get the fender flare too, and these aren't like other fender flares, apparently.
No, not at all. So without changing the suspension at all, what we did is change the wheel, push the wheel out, add a little wider wheel, and added the flare. And so the flare trims out a little bit of sheet metal and it widens it to keep everything legal.
These are bomber.
Yeah, this is cross-linked polyethylene. It's about 1/4 inch thick and it's completely surrounded. Most flares are just one little sheet.
Right.
Yeah, this isn't just for looks. And it also has a memory, so if you do ding it, it'll actually
want to
come back in the sunlight. Yeah.
Wow, that's cool.
I can tell you after hundreds of miles of bashing snowdrifts in the Arctic, these things hold up really well.
Take me through the rest of it. Like, I'm assuming that it's got as much engineering and thought put into it as the Brute.
This corner is actually a separate piece from the center. So we have the bumper center, we have the tow hook, and then we have the corner. These tow hooks are cast nodular iron. They're rated for 30,000 pounds each. It's 26 pounds. This is actually a skid plate down here. We size these appropriately so that you can't use shackles that are too small for the load rating of this truck. And this corner, at some point, is designed to yield before the frame.
Okay.
And so, so it's essentially a fuse in there. So it will give way at some point. I mean, it's very, very high. If you hit a deer or elk, it's not going to move.
Yeah.
But if you really run this thing into something solid, at some point, the idea is that this will yield before the frame will. And the other thing, if you look at the side profile, you can see it doesn't stick out very much.
No, it doesn't.
We kept it tucked in as tight as you could. Physically, we started with a winch and pushed it in as far as we could and then built the bumper around it. So then the hood, this is again, stamped steel hood, just like we do on the Wrangler. It's got the heating, the cooling vents rather. This has all kinds of water management underneath. Again, it's steel. And it really, styling wise, we took the factory lines and we just kind of amplified everything.
Sure, okay.
So it doesn't stand out too much. So then we did the raised air intake. We really wanted to keep the styling, not look too over the top.
Sure.
A lot of snorkels you see are really big and kind of don't really flow with the line. So we really put a lot of details into the flowing with the lines of the truck. We styled it after the old Kenworth dump truck air filters mounted on the side of the big trucks. Yeah.
Well, is there any styling or things that you've done on the interior?
Yeah, this truck has our own leather interior.
Okay.
And then it also has a switch pod that we're just going to introduce this year at SEMA.
Great.
This is one of the first ones you'll get to see.
Well, this one is a production model, but this one is your personal one.
Right, yeah.
So tell me about your personal one.
It's a single cab, manual transmission, Cummins diesel. And it kind of looks like half tractor, half truck, and I like the look. And I built this one because I wanted the shorter wheelbase. It's got ARB lockers front and rear.
Front and rear, okay.
It's got the big compressor on it.
Did this one go to the Arctic?
That one's been up to the Arctic, yep. It's been out on the Beaufort Sea, a couple miles. Yeah, it's done all the ice roads up there. You know, on that Arctic trip, I mean, it averaged 16 and a half miles a gallon on winter diesel over that whole trip, and it was loaded. I mean, we had fuel. It's funny, this truck carried fuel for all the other trucks.
Sure.
Extra spare tire for all the other, for the other trucks. But, and this motor is completely unmodified. It's just the bone stock Cummins, but I don't tend to mess with them because I think they have plenty of power for what I'm doing, and I want the reliability.
Yep.
And
don't want to mess with that reliability.
Exactly.
For sure. Well, they're beautiful. It's something to say about something so big and snarly, but it really is, So I think, man, from outside looking in, you should be dang proud of what you've done and engineered. Thanks. And it's really been fun to watch your company grow as an enthusiast. And I wish you the best of luck as you go forward.
Thanks, appreciate it.
Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, absolutely.
You bet.